Welcome to my story channel. I'm Shamrock. My young mother-in-law and I became pregnant at the same time, but I didn't realize that my husband had cheated on me during this period. My mother-in-law was even more angry than I was and decided to take action against the mistress. As a result, I caught my husband in the act with my mother-in-law, who was half naked, as well as my father-in-law and the mistress. I have to say, aristocratic circles are really complicated. Now the story officially begins. I'm Nina. After 2 years of dating, Alex Smith finally took me to meet his parents. Before we left, my parents told me to be mindful of etiquette, but not to be too showy, so as not to make the other party feel like they were being shown off to. I stood in front of his house, holding the cordyceps, Moutai wine, and a bag they had prepared, a little nervous. The door opened, and a young woman in her 30s embraced me with a smile. I looked at Alex awkwardly, not knowing where to put my hands. You must be Nina, Alex has told me so much about you. Welcome. Alex smiled and introduced me to his stepmother, Emma Smith. Although I was a little surprised, I understood when I thought about the fact that Alex's father was also a wealthy man. At the dinner table, I noticed that his stepmother was treated like a little princess. When her boyfriend's father offered her a piece of fish, which had a bone in it, she immediately frowned. Honey, there's a bone in it, it could get stuck in the baby's throat, said his wife, and her husband quickly removed the fish and inspected it before feeding it to her again. His wife also asked Alex to peel the shrimp for me, saying that these were the things a man should do. After dinner, she pulled me onto the sofa and started chatting about nail polish and cosmetics. The Smith family father and son were busy in the kitchen and didn't seem to mind at all. I was surprised by this. But his stepmother was used to it, and she took my hand and asked in a low voice, Nina, when are you going to come and marry into this family? I'm so bored at home all by myself. When you come, we can be princesses together. I never realized how good the atmosphere was in this family. I always thought my parents were very affectionate, but I never imagined that Alex's family would respect women so much. I felt that I had chosen the right person, and after I told my parents, I quickly got married to Alex. Life after marriage was also very happy. Every day, my mother-in-law would take me shopping, to the beauty salon, and to eat delicious food. We were like best friends. Before long, I discovered that I was pregnant, and began to suffer from frequent morning sickness, throwing up everything I ate. My mother-in-law started cooking for me, but she accidentally scalded her hand in the process, which made my father-in-law feel very sorry for her. However, after I took one look, I couldn't help but run to the bathroom to vomit. When I returned, my mother-in-law's eyes were a little red. My father-in-law's face was also a little serious. My mother-in-law stood up and used her burnt hand to serve me a bowl of soup. She said, Nina is pregnant, so you can tell me what you want to eat and I'll cook it for you again. I was so moved. I never thought that apart from my own mother, someone else would treat me so well. That night, I asked a friend from abroad to buy the bag my mother-in-law had been wanting. After discussing it with my friend, I walked out of the room to get a glass of water. As I passed my mother-in-law's room, I heard sobbing coming from inside. I must have not done a good job, so Nina doesn't like the food I cook. But it was the first time I'd cooked, and I burnt my hand, which really hurt. My father-in-law gently wiped her tears and spoke softly to her, reassuring her. Alex was also there, offering his support. I told you you shouldn't marry her. Her family is just so, and she must have fallen for our money. If Emma hadn't talked me into it, I definitely wouldn't have agreed. I just told you to go meet son's daughter, and you refused. My mother-in-law's eyes filled with tears, and she gently tugged my father-in-law's sleeve. Don't mention Alex, Nina even gave me a bag. My father-in-law stood up suddenly, pointing angrily at Alex and said, this so-called true love you found actually gave your stepmother a fake bag. Fake bag? How is that possible? My family is the famous Coleman Corporation. Our businesses span various industries, and most importantly, our family is very rich. Could it be that our family has gone bankrupt? I thought about it for a moment, and then I pinched my thigh hard, and tears flowed uncontrollably. I never imagined that the bag I spent more than half a year's salary on was fake. The three people inside the door were silent for a moment, and then Alex opened the door. I stood in the doorway, my face full of grievances, tears streaming down my face. "Emma, I'm sorry, I'll buy you another one." Emma hurried over, hugged me, and comforted me, saying it was okay, I didn't have to. I cried even more bitterly in her arms. Over the years, countless people have come looking for my father. And my mother's approach was even more heartfelt than theirs. So, although I haven't learned anything else, I can't be beaten in this area. A few days later, my mother-in-law announced the good news with great joy, she was pregnant. My father-in-law hugged her happily, kissed her several times, and gave her a card, posting the news to his circle of friends. The comments below were full of praise, and everyone said that Mr. Smith was really getting younger and younger. I looked at my father-in-law's slightly bulging belly. Is it really that impressive for someone who usually gasps after just a few steps? But my father-in-law obviously believed the comments in his circle of friends, and insisted on carrying his precious Emma upstairs at night. As a result, he twisted his back, and if Alex hadn't reacted quickly and grabbed my mother-in-law, his late-in-life child would have been lost. Alex put my mother-in-law aside and went to see his father. I hurried over too, but saw my mother-in-law standing in the same place with a flushed face. I was worried that she had a fever and reached out to touch her forehead. My mother-in-law suddenly pushed my hand away and quickly ran upstairs and into her room. My father-in-law had a very serious back injury and needed to be hospitalized for rest. Alex went to work, but he was worried about the two of us pregnant women and wanted to find a nanny for us, but my mother-in-law refused. She told Alex coquettishly that she was not used to having outsiders in the house. Alex had no choice but to agree, and before leaving the house, he told me to take care of my mother-in-law. I thought to myself, why should I take care of her? After Alex left, my mother-in-law went back inside and I don't know what she was doing. I didn't want to deal with her either, so it was a good thing my phone rang and I got 2 messages. One was from the private investigator I hired earlier, regarding the investigation of the fake bag. The bag I gave my mother-in-law before had a serial number. My mother spent 200,000 yuan to get it, so how could it be a fake? Sure enough, the transaction records showed that the real bag was sold, and the seller was Emma. She actually bought a fake bag online to switch it. This Emma, it seems that my previous opinion of her was too simple. My parents told me that they had bought me several houses as dowry. I decisively transferred the property to my personal property, and the registered name only listed mine. After replying to the message, I went into the kitchen and, despite the discomfort of pregnancy, made a sandwich and some milk. As soon as I brought it to the table, my mother-in-law felt her tummy and started eating casually. While eating, she said, "The eggs are overcooked, the baby won't like it. Can you leave off the salad dressing next time? I don't really like it." Never mind, it's just an extra plate of rice. I went into the kitchen and started preparing a new one. "This one's not very tasty, I don't want it anymore, you can have it." Emma wiped her mouth, stood up and left. I looked at the sandwich on the plate, with some crumbs still on it. I forced myself to endure the discomfort and quickly made another one. Emma was sitting on the sofa, leisurely tapping away at the keyboard, replying to someone's message. The phone rang. It was the delivery man, telling me to come downstairs to collect the delivery. I hung up the phone and was about to get dressed to go out when my mother-in-law came out of the kitchen, biting into an apple. "Nina, are you going to get the delivery? Can you get it for me? I don't have much, just a box of fruit, a bag of rice and a bucket of oil." Hearing this, I turned around and went back to bed. "Nina, aren't you going to get it for me? Alex told you to look after me when he went out." She spoke in a pitiful tone, and when she saw that I was still lying in bed, she gave a little stamp of her foot. I heard her make a phone call, and soon afterwards she changed her clothes and went to wash the floor. When she returned, she was followed by Alex. I was relieved. "Alex, you're finally back, otherwise I really don't know what to do. I'm already weak, and now that I'm pregnant, I really can't move it." Nina even asked me to go downstairs and get her a delivery, which was really annoying. As soon as I left the room, I saw Alex comforting his mother, gently patting her shoulder. They only let go of each other when I came out. I thought to myself, what a good mother-son relationship. I squinted to observe them, holding the doorframe with one hand, my face a little pale. Honey, you're back with Emma. I'll get you something to eat right away. I'm walking a little unsteadily, one hand on my chest and the other on my stomach. As soon as I enter the kitchen, I start feeling sick. Alex quickly comes over and helps me sit down. It's okay, I'll just cook dinner, he says. I shake my head. I don't think Emma will like the food I made for lunch, so I want to try again. Honey, don't worry about me, I just feel a little nauseous, but I can handle it. After saying this, I try to stand up again with difficulty. By the way, Emma, your delivery, I'll go get it for you when I recover a bit, okay? I looked at my mother-in-law with a face full of apologies. Alex suddenly understood, and explained to my mother-in-law next to me, Nina is pregnant and her reaction is more severe, you may have misunderstood her. I lowered my head and tried hard to look vulnerable. My mother-in-law stopped crying, her chest seemed to be weighed down by a huge stone, and she looked at me with worry and sorrow. After Alex finished speaking, he gently comforted me and sat with me on the sofa. My mother-in-law's face was red with anger. She looked at the delivery that had been brought in, took out my parcel from it and walked into the living room. Nina, the child doesn't mean to accuse you, she just wants to say that we are not spending our own money and that this money should be spent on important things. Look at me, I only buy things that the family needs. My mother-in-law pointed at the things she had bought in the trolley and put my delivery on the table again. Alex picked up the package, which said Overseas Express Delivery. His face grew heavy. It seems that this package is for him. Unfortunately, she may be disappointed. Emma, how can you say that about me? You said before that the bag I bought was a fake, so I asked a friend to help me buy your favorite bag overseas. Since you don't like it, I'll return it. I picked up my phone with some grievance and started typing. Alex and my mother-in-law realized and hurriedly tried to stop me. My mother-in-law smiled at me while hugging the express delivery box tightly. You can't return things you bought for someone else. We'll just keep it. Keep it for what? So you can sell it again. I'm not stupid. Emma, it's too late. My friend has already refunded me the money. You know how popular this bag is. Grandma refused to budge, hugging the delivery box and pouting. No matter what, this is the baby's favorite bag and the baby wants it. I pretended to be very troubled, frowning, but my friend had already informed the other buyers. I couldn't afford the penalty. Grandma looked over at Alex, who was sitting quietly nearby, and cooed, Alex. Alex picked up his phone and transferred 50,000 yuan to me. Little mom, I'll consider this bag your birthday present. Grandma excitedly ran over to Alex, grabbed his arm and shook it happily. Alex, you're always the best to me, I sat quietly watching, suspicious of their interactions. After some observation, I decided to hire a private detective to investigate. But before I could find out anything about Alex and my mother-in-law, the private detective sent me some other photos. Alex had betrayed me. He was having an affair with his secretary. I had met her. She was fair-skinned, tall, and liked to wear black stockings with tight skirts. She really gave off a seductive vibe. I asked Alex at the time, and he swore that he only had eyes for me. In retrospect, I was really taken in by his sweet words. But I can use this photo to try it on my wonderful mother-in-law. She is wearing a beautiful dress, holding a new bag and taking a selfie in front of the mirror. Ever since she got this bag, she has taken photos almost every day and posted them to her circle of friends. I gathered my emotions and tried hard to let the tears flow. Emma, mother-in-law turned her head and said, Nina, do you think my bag and dress match well? It looks good. It looks great. Crying makes it meaningful. Oh, Emma. My mother-in-law finally turned from the mirror and looked at me. What's wrong? I said, Alex has cheated on me, someone sent me a photo. My mother-in-law dropped her precious bag to the ground in surprise and almost pounced to grab the photo from me. I saw her hands shaking uncontrollably, her face changing expressions, sometimes angry, sometimes sad. Nina. I will decide this matter. We must get rid of that interloper. I suddenly felt like having some fun and wiped away the tears on the back of my hand. Thank you, Emma, what's going on, why are you so angry? Grandma's eyes flashed with panic, and she clutched the hem of her clothes tightly. I walked over to her, took her hand and said, Emma, you really are my best friend, you're taking my side, aren't you? Grandma hurriedly nodded to comfort me. I pretended to say that I was sleepy and went back to the bedroom to rest. In fact, she was eavesdropping on my mother-in-law's phone call to Alex at the door. My mother-in-law cried out of distress while she kept accusing him. Alex said something after listening to her, and my mother-in-law quickly laughed, and then the two of them started flirting. I silently took out my phone and recorded it all. This family is really disappointing. However, I have no intention of letting them get away with it. In the evening, Alex came home and explained to me for a long time. He said that the photos were all fake composites, and that he had not done those things. My mother-in-law also hugged me and told me that Alex had already explained to her that he really hadn't cheated on her. I nodded as I nibbled my lip. Honey, I believe you. As soon as the words left my mouth, I could clearly feel both of us let out a sigh of relief. Honey, I have to go to the hospital for a checkup tomorrow. Can you accompany me? I can't, honey. Your stepmother and I already made plans to go to the hospital together tomorrow to see my father. You have to be good. I lowered my head in disappointment, slightly worried. Then I'll just have to ask a friend to accompany me to the hospital tomorrow. In a family like this, I don't feel comfortable staying for even one more day. And I'm going to have a baby, and let him grow up in this environment? That night, my mother-in-law said she didn't feel well. Alex was worried about her condition, so he made a bed in her room. The two of them showed a deep mother-son bond. The next day, after the operation, I went to the wedding room that my father had bought for me. I hired a nanny to take care of me. Alex and the others didn't realize I was gone until they got home in the evening and hurriedly called me. Hey, honey, my parents and I are going to let me come home and stay for a few days. I could hear my mother-in-law deliberately coughing on the other end of the line. Alex reassured me, told me to take care of myself, and told me to let him know before I went back so that he could come and pick me up. Then he hung up. That night, I called my father. Alex's family owned a small construction company. Naturally, they had a lot of business with my family's Coleman Corporation. It wasn't long before Alex's family's orders dropped significantly, and many companies proposed terminating their contracts with his company. Alex's father was still recovering, and he was in charge of the company's affairs. He was under a lot of stress dealing with all the cancellations and compensation. According to the private investigator I hired, Alex had become even thinner. And on several occasions, he had lost his temper with my mother-in-law, who had run away to her room in tears. They think they can do whatever they like while I'm away. Well, they can't. Finally, my mother-in-law called me. Nina, when are you coming home? Alex's company is in trouble and as his wife, you should help. I really can't help you, mother-in-law. There was silence on the other end of the line, followed by a soft sob. Nina, I'm only trying to help. If you don't want to come back and see me, I won't force you, but how could you say such a thing? What's going on? Mother-in-law. Don't talk to her anymore. She comes from a poor family, what do you expect? Alex sounded impatient. Alex, don't say that. Although Nina comes from a poor family and can't help, she is still your wife. I heard Alex hum softly on the other end of the line. Nina, don't blame Alex. Come home quickly. I obediently prepared my fake belly and returned home. There have been some problems at Smith family's company, and my mother-in-law has been a bit hostile towards me since I came home. She saw me eating fruit and snatched it away, saying, Nina, I also need to supplement my vitamins, do you mind? I shook my head and took a bottle of Bird's Nest from the fridge. My mother-in-law said with dissatisfaction, that's spending Alex's money. You don't earn any money either, why don't you think about saving some for Alex? I asked in return, why didn't you think about saving some for my father-in-law when you bought the pack before? My mother-in-law angrily slammed the bowl in her hand and went back to the bedroom without saying anything else. I deliberately didn't clean up, and only crouched down to pick up the pieces after Alex came home. Alex's mood had improved recently due to the better situation at work. He came in carrying a box of strawberries and, seeing me crouched on the floor picking up the broken pieces, hurried over to stop me and carefully examined my fingers. "You're pregnant, don't do that," he said, concerned. "It's okay, honey, I'm fine," I reassured him. Sobbing sounds came from my mother-in-law's bedroom, and Alex quickly went in. My mother-in-law cried even more, detailing what had happened during the day. She said, "Alex, I just wanted to help you, I didn't realize Nina would misunderstand me." Soon after, Alex angrily confronted me, asking, "What's wrong with you? Why can't you communicate with your mother-in-law properly? You really hurt her feelings. Besides, Xiaomao has a very good personality, and everyone can get along harmoniously, so why do you have to be so confrontational? It's really puzzling." Seeing that I was reluctant, Alex simply took my mother-in-law out the door. I checked the message from the detective on my phone, changed my clothes, and went out the door as well. When I arrived downstairs at the Shaoyun Hotel, I looked up at the building and couldn't help but laugh. These two really know how to pick a place, running to my family's hotel. I walked to the front desk and was about to ask them to call the manager when I saw a familiar figure. My father-in-law was walking downstairs with a beautiful woman on his arm. The woman was also an acquaintance, Alex's secretary. I took out my phone and took a few photos. Unexpectedly, I got a bonus. My identity made it easy for me to get the room card key for Alex and their room. I slowly walked upstairs and found the room number. Click, the door opened. I walked in holding my phone. Alex was on top of his mother-in-law, kissing her. I didn't expect them to be so bold, even when they were pregnant. They froze when they saw me come in. Alex was the first to react, and came over to try to take my phone. I told him to stop moving, and that I had already sent the video to a friend. If I didn't say anything within 5 minutes, she would upload it to the internet. Alex dared not move again, and just glared at me angrily from where he was standing. "What do you want?" I sat down in a chair, crossed my legs and looked at the two people in front of me. After the divorce, the house was divided equally between the two of us. My mother-in-law had been pretending to cry, but stopped when I mentioned the house. "You don't even have a job, but you're relying on us. Now you want to split our house? That's too much." Sure enough, you only approached Alex because of our family's money. I didn't want to say anything to them, and just looked at Alex. "Do you agree or not?" Although Alex was a little reluctant, he had no choice but to agree because he had something on me. I had already prepared the divorce agreement and found a lawyer. The next morning, Alex and I completed all the formalities and moved out of his house. The divorce agreement between Alex and I stipulated that the property would be cashed in and returned a week later. But instead of waiting for the money, I received a form. It detailed all the expenses I had incurred while dating Alex and the expenses I had incurred since we got married at his place, down to the exact amount spent on each bowl of rice. "Yun Nina, all this money Alex spent on you was decided by both Alex and I. The full cash value of your property can offset these expenses, and we don't need to pay you anything." Emma's message made me want to laugh. This is such a straightforward way of calculating. Why make it so complicated? I didn't reply to her message. After all, their decision had no legal effect. I underestimated Emma's shamelessness. The next day, my parents called me. When I returned to the community, I saw Emma hanging a large banner in the square that read 21 Cloud Nina cheated in marriage and lied about real estate. She was also holding a loudspeaker and excitedly telling the surrounding neighbors about it. "Cloud Nina lived with my son for a year and spent a lot of money, and now that they are getting divorced, she still wants the house that my son bought. How can there be such people in this world? Such women only care about money and should really be banned from the community." The neighbors were gossiping in private, and the community group was full of criticism of my family. Emma was crying there, telling her grandmothers who were comforting her about her suffering. I couldn't stand it anymore, so I squeezed into the crowd and snatched the megaphone from her. Emma, listen. I took a document out of my bag and handed it to her. Open your eyes and look. I paid the down payment on this house with your son. We also pay the monthly mortgage in equal shares. And when it comes to the money I spend in your household, you can also pay me back the money I spent on the bag I bought you. I held out my hand to indicate that she should pay me back. Emma, however, started acting like a scoundrel, saying that everything I did was a lie. A lie? Then the video I'm holding is also a lie. I looked at Emma half closed-eyed. Sure enough, she started to look flustered. The neighbors around me were curious about the video I mentioned and kept asking me to show it to them. Alex appeared in time and took Emma away. The neighbors realized there was nothing to see and left after a while. When I got home, I saw my father sitting on the sofa with a serious expression on his face. I suggested moving to the villa, but he insisted on keeping a low profile and enjoying life. My mother saw this and gave my father's arm a gentle squeeze, saying angrily, as a result, my father decisively decided to move to the villa that day to prevent Emma from causing trouble again. Of course, the Smith family treated me very unkindly and embarrassed my family. My father definitely would not let them off lightly. The Smith family's construction company, which had been doing well, was having problems again, and its cash flow was beginning to suffer. I ran into Alex again when I was bored and went shopping, thinking about buying some dresses. I went to the store I used to go to a lot, and the manager greeted me warmly. Miss Yuan, we have some new styles in this store that are perfect for you, the manager patiently introduced me to the dresses. I picked up a sky blue chiffon dress and was about to try it on when someone reached over and snatched it away from me. She said, "You must be Alex's ex-wife. What a waste of time coming here to buy a dress." I turned around and saw a woman holding a dress in her hand, looking at me with disdain. Standing next to her was Alex, carrying a small bag. I knew this woman. My parents had taken me to an upper-class party before, and I had seen her from afar. She was the Wright Group's heiress, Sophia Wright. Can she even fit into it? I looked at the woman's figure in front of me and then at the dress in her hands. I didn't think she could possibly fit into it. Alex walked up to her, put his arm around her waist and said, "Only someone with your figure could wear this dress." Sophia was delighted by Alex's words, and she took the dress and prepared to walk into the fitting room. The manager quickly stopped her. "Miss Wright, that lady saw the dress first. Besides, this dress, you." Sophia gave the manager a cold stare. "What, do you think I can't afford it?" The manager wiped the sweat from his brow and didn't dare say anything else. I could tell the manager was in a difficult situation, so I slowly said, "Manager, I'll buy all your new styles, no matter the size." Sophia sneered and said to the lady, "You don't need to max out your credit card just to save face." The manager was momentarily stunned. This mall belongs to Miss Yun, so why spend the credit card? Once the words were out, Sophia and Alex were both stunned. I stood up and took out the black gold card from my bag and paid the bill happily. The manager's face was full of joy. These clothes together are worth 7 digits, and she can get a substantial commission. "Excuse me, Miss Yun, when would you like these clothes delivered?" "Just deliver them to Tiandu Garden." The manager nodded and turned to look at Sophia, who was holding the dress. "Miss Wright, do you still want this dress?" Sophia swallowed and looked over at Alex next to her. Alex glanced at the tag on the dress and whispered, "Honey, this dress doesn't really suit you. Why don't we look at something else?" I sat back, smiling, sipping tea and eating biscuits, and found the scene very interesting. Unfortunately, Sophia was not someone to be trifled with. She waved her hand and glared at Alex, saying, "Alex, you don't want to spend money on me, and you want my father to invest in you. Just leave." Alex panicked and gritted his teeth and said, "Buy it." If I hadn't blocked all of Emma's contact information, I would really like to send her this scene so she can see how Alex spends money on other women. Alex went to the cashier and took out a lot of cards from his wallet. He tried hard to swipe the cards and enter the pins. The manager looked at the screen and smiled, saying, "Sir, it seems that your card balance is not enough. Would you like to use another card?" Alex's face changed, he looked at me sideways and nervously said, "Can I use a few cards together?" I couldn't help laughing, got up, picked up my bag and left. Before I reached the parking lot, Alex caught up with me. "Where did you get all that money? Were you sponsored by someone behind my back? Don't second guess me with your thoughts." I shook off his hand, walked straight to my supercar and drove off. After I got home, I received a message from Alex. "Cloudy Nina, I advise you to reflect in time, concentrate on protecting your baby and not give my child to other men. This person is really persistent. If it weren't for the real estate business, I would have blocked him a long time ago." I didn't reply to him. I didn't feel like saying another word. The next evening, after dinner, I went downstairs for a walk. Just as I arrived downstairs, I ran into Emma. "Well, if it isn't Nina. Why are you with a new friend and living in a fancy house? So you think your house isn't fancy?" I responded without hesitation. No time to argue with you. After all, we live here openly, unlike you." Emma was carrying a bag and had a smile on her face. I was wondering when Alex and Sophia walked out of a house. "In a couple of days, you and Emma will move in with me. This place is quite big, I get bored by myself." Emma happily ran over, put her arm around Sophia's shoulder, and said, "I knew you were the best, unlike some people." After that, Emma made a face at me. Sophia was obviously a little nervous when she saw me, but she still tried to greet me calmly. "Your house." I pointed at the house they had just walked out of. I remembered that I had rented it out the day before. Sophia nodded. Emma said with a hint of arrogance, "Xiaoyu, don't talk to her, she doesn't quite understand." I raised my eyebrows. "Xiaoyu, you know, she used to bully me all the time, treat me badly," and Emma kept saying bad things about me, while Alex kept nodding in agreement. Sophia never spoke, and didn't dare to look at me. I smiled at the three of them and asked, "Are we done?" Emma didn't quite understand what I meant and nodded. I picked up my phone and made a call. The property manager arrived shortly afterwards. He smiled cordially when he saw me and said with a slight bow, "Miss Wright, what can I do for you?" I was admiring my freshly done nails and told him, "I rented a flat a few days ago, but now I've decided not to take it anymore. I'll pay the penalty. Please help me notify the cancellation." The property manager didn't hesitate, immediately taking out his phone and dialing. Sophia's phone rang at the right moment. "Hello, Miss Wright, the house you previously rented is no longer available." She heard an echo on the other end of the line, and the property manager looked up to see the three people standing next to him with incredulous expressions on their faces. "Miss Wright, as luck would have it, you're here. Let's sign the contract for termination of the lease." Emma couldn't believe it and asked Sophia what was going on. "It's simple. This apartment is mine, and I actually own 4 more." With that, I walked to the elevator and went downstairs. In the evening, I relaxed on the sofa, with a face mask on my face and a glass of red wine in my hand. I felt very comfortable. My phone rang, and I saw it was a message from Alex. "Cloud Nina, you're the daughter of Coleman Corporation, aren't you? Why didn't you tell me? In fact, I've always liked you. Sophia and I were just having fun, and you're pregnant with our child, right? So, let's get married again, and you can ask your father to invest in our family's company, and then we can move to where you live." This guy is surprisingly confident. I didn't even want to talk to him, so I sent Alex's father a video of the two of them cheating. I also sent Alex a photo of Alex's father cheating, and then blocked them all. A few months later, I returned from a world tour and had dinner at home with my best friend. She excitedly told me about what happened at Alex's house. Alex's father, after learning that his wife was with his son, got so angry that he slapped Emma. Unexpectedly, he accidentally pushed Emma down the stairs, causing her to lose her baby and become unable to conceive again. At this time, a young secretary came to the door, claiming to be pregnant, but it was unclear whether the father of her child was Alex's father or Alex himself. In order to secure investment from Wright Group, Alex eventually married Sophia. In order to satisfy Sophia's grand wedding, the Smith family even sold their large villa. No one understood why Sophia was willing to marry Alex despite the Smith family's scandal. It wasn't until the 5th month of their marriage, when Sophia gave birth, that everyone realized that Alex had been cuckolded and had become the fall guy. I calmly shook the drink in my glass. Alex had actually contacted me, using an unfamiliar number. He seemed drunk and kept repeating over and over on the phone that he missed me and asked how our child was doing. I simply told him that the child had long since passed away. He was silent for a few seconds, then he started to cry. But no one could be blamed for this, after all, he had caused it all himself. Later, when I was in the supermarket, I accidentally saw Sophia and Emma. Sophia was pushing the pram, and Emma was following behind her, with a servile smile on her face. Gone was the previous fussiness, replaced by industrious care of Sophia. I leaned against the floor-to-ceiling windows and looked out at the city, lit up in the twilight. It was all in the past. This unsuccessful marriage would eventually fade from my memory. My phone rang. It was my mother. I answered. Hello, daughter, do you want to come out for a late supper? Yes, I want to eat crayfish.